Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks Deep Dive. And today I'm going to talk about a couple of different subjects that kind of intermingle. It's things that I think about a lot, wonder about, things I've been taught my entire life were absolute fact, but when you start exploring them with a little more thought, a little common sense, there are definitely questions. It's not the whole story what we've been taught, and it becomes very obvious once you think about it. But it's not obvious to think about it. So this is what the deep dive is about, to give us stuff to explore with our minds and discuss in the comments and really think. And that's what we're honestly here for, Gen X Thinks. I'd like to preface this with a short announcement that I'm not trying to belittle or denigrate anybody's beliefs. I have my beliefs. I don't want people messing with them. I believe what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. Christian, atheist, Muslim, Hindu, whatever. This is just stuff to think about. So don't take this in any direction like we're trying to deny science or whatever. It's not about any of that. It's just about thoughts and what we've been taught. There can be a large difference between what we are taught about science and actual science. All right, what we're told about science and actual science. There can be a vast difference there, a huge chasm, and sometimes it's interesting to try to cross that chasm in your mind and figure out what the hell's really going on. That's what this is about. So the first topic is evolution. And I've been taught my entire life that evolution is a fact. There's no argument. If you do argue, you're an idiot. Blah, blah, blah. Straight up. I've read Charles Darwin's biography. A lot of stuff about evolution makes sense. I'm not going to argue that. But I will argue that there are some stuff about evolution that does not make sense. And it takes some thought to get there. It's really obvious once you think about it. But when you're programmed, I guess is the word, when you're taught a certain thing, and that's, you just take that for granted that that's the truth. It takes a stretch. It's kind of difficult to get outside that and to think outside that box and to start to wonder about things. But I'm not arguing against evolution. I'm just raising some questions about it. If you think about it, and I actually pulled up an article here because this is the thing that got me thinking about it. I love watching nature documentaries about animals, African animals, South American rainforests and stuff like that. That's just something I'm into. It's interesting to me. And I was watching this documentary, and it talked about these tetras. They're fish. It's a species of tetra down in Amazon, and I'll read this real quick article to you. They jump out of the water to lay their eggs on leaves. Leaping requires perfect posture. The fish aligns itself to grip the leaf by surface tension as it lands. The males leap first to inspect suitable sites, favoring protected leaves with a surface easy to stick to. The male swims underneath the chosen leaf until a female arrives. The pair lines up beneath the leaf and performs an ultimate act of synchronized swimming. So these tetras down there, they're in the water. They leap up and stick to a leaf. The female lays its eggs, and then the male fertilizes them. And then they drop off. The male chases the female away, and then he swims around down there for a few weeks or whatever and spits water up onto the eggs to keep them hydrated until they hatch. And here's the problem I have with evolution. Not that it's wrong, not that it's not a thing, because you can breed chickens or rabbits or something and prove evolution. Just breeding, you can breed for a certain trait and you'll get that trait. So if nature needs you to have a certain trait to survive in a certain place, like polar bears are white. So, the lightest colored polar bears wouldn't be seen by their prey, so they got to eat and they survived. That stuff's just common sense. But when you get into this tetrafish type of thing, and there are many, many more examples of this type of thing going on with this tetrafish, and it's complex behavior. Not physical attributes, but complex behavior. Okay, let's take this tetrafish and from the beginning and try to trace its evolution just using common sense. Okay, now first of all, you're going to have fish swimming out around under the water, and they're going to develop these fins that allow them to stick to a leaf. Now they're swimming around under the water. They don't. Why would they jump out and stick onto a leaf? Do they realize that they have these fins? It either happened that way, or they kept jumping. Each generation kept jumping onto these leaves and sliding off until they eventually developed these sticky fins that allowed them to suction cup to these leaves. Neither one of those really makes much sense. And if it was just that, you could pass it off. Okay, it happened, whatever. But it's a lot more than that, as I just explained. This is complex behavior that evolution does not explain. It does not provide the entire story. So they finally, the male jumps up and can stick on a leaf. And then now he's got to find a female that can do the same thing and convey that message to jump up on this leaf with him. Somehow he's got to find a female with that same mutation and encourage her to jump up on this leaf with him. Now this is at the beginning of this complex behavior. Before that, they hadn't evolved to do that yet. So these are the first ones. Somehow these fish had to jump up and lay these eggs on these leaves, and that provided a boost for their survivability so that they procreated, and all the other ones that didn't, they died off. Or ranged off further away and became a new species or whatever. A new species of tetra. But that part doesn't make sense. For him to find another female how did he identify that she had the sticky fins like he did? And then how did he convey the message? How did he get her to jump up onto the leaf with him? You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't make sense. So then she's up there, and then the coincidence that he gets this to happen with the female who has the sticky fins, who understands his communication, and then she has a belly full of eggs. Okay, that's another important point, because that's a coincidence that she's just happens to be ready to breed at that time. He got lucky, and this one female's ready to breed. And ready to lay eggs, rather. So she lays these eggs, and somehow she got the mutation, the genetic mutation, so that her eggs stuck to the leaf. So her eggs stick to the leaf, he fertilizes them, they go down, and then he chases her off, and somehow he knows that he needs to spit water up on the eggs. He just figures this out on his own, without any help, just evolution. Now, common sense would tell me that the first, 100,000 batches of eggs or whatever would have just evaporated there. They would have dried out up on that leaf because the little fish doesn't know to spit water on them. So the species would have died out, or that mutation would have died out, but it didn't. All this had to happen in a relatively short time period. They didn't just jump up on leaves for 100,000 years, you know what I mean, and not lay eggs. They didn't just jump up on leaves for 100,000 years and lay eggs, but him not spit the water up there. So that it had to happen in a very short time period in succession to get the outcome that was desired. You understand where I'm going with this? No matter what you believe, if it's God or Allah or Hindu, Buddha, whatever, spirituality, whatever, strictly science, atheist, doesn't matter. None of that matters. Common sense says that evolution needs something, a hand. It needs help. All right? If you want to believe that aliens assisted life here and help them get to where they are and help aided with this convoluted and complex behavior, great. I'm not going to argue that. If you want to believe it was God, that's awesome. I'm not arguing any of that. My point is that it looks like, when you really think about it and analyze it, it looks like that evolution needs a helping hand. It's part of the plan, part of the operation, but it is a tool, not the entire thing. It's one cog in the machine. There's something, evolution's a smaller part in a bigger operation that's happening. When we're taught that evolution's the whole thing, that's it. That's how you go from a single-celled organism to a human being, is pure evolution. And it just doesn't make sense. Not at all. Not to me. Not after thinking about it and much. And I've seen many of these documentaries and seen a lot of this a lot of these types of complex behaviors that just make me think and wonder about it. How on earth could, even millions of years, could evolution do this? It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it does to you. Please leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think. This is the main object of this deep dive series, is to share ideas and express our thoughts to each other. So I get the benefit of just talking into this camera, but you need to put your comments down in the comment section and tell me what you think about it. What do you believe? What do you believe about what I'm talking about? About evolution needing help. And then along with evolution goes another thought process I have, and something I think about, and that is the domestication of animals. Now, if you think about it, dogs are a very, very special animal. They're the only animal that we have domesticated and actually changed their species. They were wolves. The DNA is different. You take a wolf bone and take it to a lab, and they'll tell you it's a wolf. You take a dog bone to a lab, and they'll tell you it's a dog. They don't get the two confused. The DNA is different. They are different species. So dogs have been with us so long that, they have completely changed their DNA and are separate from wolves, which is unique in the entire world. I mean, there are wild cats out there and their DNA is the same as our cats. Now, it's the same with dogs, but our dogs, they've got wild dogs in Africa, but our dogs got loose and went back out into the wild, right? They just haven't been wild dogs out there for millions of years. They were domesticated dogs at one time and got whatever, their humans got killed or whatever, and they returned to the wild. That's a different thing. Cats are cats. Horses, wild horses, are the same DNA, the same species as domesticated horses. Elephants, think about any domesticated animal, llamas, whatever, and their wild counterpart is their same DNA. The only one that's not true of is dogs. Parakeets, wild parakeets, domestic parakeets, same thing. They're parakeets. But a dog is not a wolf, period. End of story. A dog is not a wolf. A wolf and a dog are completely separate. So I just find that fascinating that the dog is the only one that has completely changed its DNA and its species because of interaction with us. And here is the deep dive part of that. If you look at wild animals, look at giraffes. You can take one giraffe, 20 years later, pick another giraffe, and they both look the same. I don't care what you can't. It's hard to tell the difference between one giraffe and the other, even over decades. A grown giraffe, it looks like another grown giraffe. Same thing with elephants. You can tell the difference between a big male bull elephant or a big male lion and a female lion, but all the female lions look the same. Thousands of miles apart, growing up in, they've got desert lions and African savanna lions, and they look the same. They're all about the same color. The males have the manes, and grizzly bears, you can't tell them apart. I mean, if you really pay attention, you can tell, but you see pictures of grizzly bears, they all look the same to me. Polar bears the same way. All wild animals are that way. The point is that each individual inside a species looks about the same, generally about the same, within a very plausible margin of the same weight, the same height, the same color. They're all basically the same. If you took just general physical attributes and listed them down, that list would be the same for every giraffe on the planet. But then when you look at domesticated animals, look at dogs. You can have a Great Dane that is 200 pounds, almost 4 feet tall, black, and have a little cream-colored Chihuahua that you can hold in your hand. They do not look the same at all. Completely different. They don't even look like the same species. There are dogs that look more like wolves than the Great Dane and the Chihuahua look like each other. That's what domestication does. But they're the same species. That's the point. They look completely different. That sets them apart from wild animals. Same thing with cats. You can have a big fluffy cat and a little tiny horses the same way. You can have a 2,000-pound Goliath that'll pull a tractor, and then these little tiny horses that run around looking cute. They're just cool. But they look completely different, and they're the same species. Now, when you think about it like that, human beings follow the domestication. We look like we're domesticated. Compare me to someone like Shaquille O'Neal. That's like comparing, the Great Dane to the Chihuahua. If I stood next to Shaquille O'Neal, he would tower over me, look completely different than me. Big, he could pick up a damn Volkswagen, you know what I'm saying? Me look completely different attributes. You can list our attributes, our physical attributes down on a piece of paper and tell that we are completely different. But we're the same species. We're the exact same human beings inside, our DNA. When you go down to our DNA, we're the same. The same like the Chihuahua and the Great Dane. Same species. But they look completely different. So that just makes me wonder, why do we follow that line to where we look like and follow the traits of domesticated animals? Why aren't we like wild animals? Why aren't all of us the same? It's something to think about, because these kind of rules in the universe, they have meaning. They're not just, willy-nilly. They have meaning. I don't know. Just makes me wonder. And again, that points to the fact that there's been a higher consciousness involved. Now, what that may be, that's for each of us to find out for ourselves. I have my own personal beliefs, and anyone can. But my point is that the powers that be, the institutions that teach us these things, they're not teaching us the whole truth. no matter what you think about it. They're not teaching us everything. They're teaching us just what they want, basically. What they want us to know. Teaching us parts of things. So then we're trapped in these little boxes of knowledge, and we think we're smart because we know all the things that we've been taught. But it's just a fraction of what it is to know just on this planet. I mean, we don't even literally get every scientist on this planet together and ask them, and they cannot tell you what life is. They have no idea. That's the truth. You take a dry seed, whatever seed, wheat, corn, whatever, and it's an inanimate object. It'll sit there forever. Never move, never think, never do anything, just like a rock. But when the right conditions are met, it comes to life. Something enters that seed that wasn't there. Some kind of energy, whatever it is, and it begins to grow. It becomes animated. It moves. Slowly. I mean, it's imperceptible to us humans unless we put unless you put a camera on it with time lapse, but then you can see it comes to life. What does that tell us? That these scientists, they don't even know what life is. There's a lot they don't know. They don't know anything about consciousness. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They know very little about the brain. All they know is that the human brain is the most complex thing in the universe that they know of, that they've ever discovered. The human brain is the most complex thing. That's all they know. Well, not all they know. They're discovering things about the brain, but it's so minuscule, the amount of knowledge they have. The top experts. I mean, I hardly know anything about the brain, but I know enough to know that I don't know. And I'm willing to admit that. But when you start discovering how much scientists don't know, then you start to question things like, they don't know everything. They're not telling us all that they don't know. They're giving us little parts of what they do know, but they're not telling us everything they don't know. And more as they explore the universe, it becomes more and more obvious to the scientific community. And you can look into this. It becomes more and more obvious to the scientific community that this was made by design. Whether you want to believe it was designed by an alien with a hologram or whatever, great. If you want to believe it was designed by God, great. But that's what science points to. And that's what they don't tell you. That's what they don't put all over it. But that's what science points to. And we can get into that on another video. And I'll explain how science is pointing that way. That'll make another good deep dive. They don't like to talk about that. Period. And there's a lot more as you look around and you explore just our world. There's so much that points to something more than just evolution. Something more than just random chance. Think about that. And I'll leave you there. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by hitting on the thanks button down below this video. If you do so, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Or you can support the channel by buying me a cup of coffee, and I'll put that link down in the description. Also, if you're interested in Gen X gear, I'll put that link down in the description as well. We got some pretty cool stuff over there, stickers and coffee mugs and stuff like that. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in one of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a lot. Thank you very much for those of you who do that. I really appreciate it. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments, or you can email them to me. The channel email is on the channel page, so you can do that too if you feel like it. But thank you for that. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I'll let you go for now. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I will see you on the next one.